What's up, YouTube? Capital G here. Welcome to another episode of The Excellent Adventures. These are the excellent adventures of competitive Ojamas. That sounds like an oxymoron, right? Like competitive and Ojamas, like pick one. But this was actually a deck that Mitchell was running in Charlotte, North Carolina just a couple of weeks ago. And he ended up going 5-2-2 playing against nothing but meta decks, which I think is quite impressive considering that he's freaking playing Ojamas. Now, Ojamas are generally going to be run on like 60 card variants because there is a whole lot of clutter in this deck. You have to run a whole bunch of like minor engines, everything from Rescue Cat to the ABC pieces to the XYZ pieces and stuff like that. And it's because with basically when you constantly use like Ojama Blue and run it into your opponent's monsters, you can actually summon things like ABC Dragon, XYZ Dragon Cannon Head and all that good stuff. And then all the cards that you've kind of accumulated in your hand, they essentially become negations or they become field removal because this deck actually fuses like crazy into these big mother lovers, and you guys will see these cards absolutely take over a game, especially this dude. This dude is like ridiculously, man. If your opponent doesn't kaiju that thing, it honestly does not have an equal. It is just that good. So first duel is against Sky Striker. All these duels will be against competitive decks, and it's interesting. I don't know if this guy's just bad with Sky Strikers or maybe he just doesn't know like that you can still, it's okay to use your Kagari in the first turn. Maybe that's going to be a thing. Maybe people are just going to be hesitant to use their Kagaris early on because you see that he did not use Kagari despite the fact that he could have gotten engaged from his graveyard, and I thought that was kind of weird. Also, you could argue that maybe he could have activated his Widow Anchor in hand before he resolved the multi-roll, thus he would have had double Widow Anchor set on the field. I mean, that could have actually been, I mean, I don't know, maybe that would have been like a better play. To be honest, it isn't really going to make a difference, even though you could say that he misplayed, and that's because, boom, get that Kaiju dropped on your face. This means that doesn't matter how many of these cards you would have actually had, none of them would be able to activate because you're a Kaiju. You're going to force your opponent to have a monster in their main monster zone, and this is really how Ojamas make all their advantage. They basically take Ojama Blue and they run it into your opponent's monster, or they run it into your monster. Then they constantly use Ojama Match. This lets you like summon one of your Ojama monsters by pitching an Ojama card. You can just basically get another blue, and then you can just ram it in. Now you do take a lot of damage doing this, so you'd want to, if possible, you don't want to have to run it into a Kaiju. You'd like to run it into something smaller. But I mean, look at the amount of cards you get in your hand, and these aren't all dead cards. You're like, damn, Cat, what are you gonna do with these crappy Ojama pieces? Don't worry, these will be traded in to actual like good cards. His opponent does have the Ghost Ogre. Perfectly fine. He's going to go into some different Kaijus, and now is when you can start doing the work, right? So you activate Ojama Modification. This summons things like ABC pieces straight from your deck. You get 3 of them, so not only are you going to be able to drop Buster Dragon, but you also get to go in the freaking Link plays too, like straight into a Saryuja Skull Drag, because why not? B's also going to trigger, just gives you another card in your hand. Now he's going to go for the Kaijuta Waterfront. I mean, this is probably going to be him dropping a Still on his opponent for even more negations, which at this point is like, man, that's gonna be kind of crazy. He's gonna activate another Ojama Modification because it's not a hard once per turn. This means he gets 3 more monsters. We could see a second Saryuja. I mean, this guy could go through the entire nightmare, I guess gauntlet there, but instead he decides to go for the XYZ Dragon Cannon. And what this does is, cards like ABC Buster Dragon and Dragon Cannon, they're not just beat sticks in this deck, they simplify the game state. He takes all of those cards in his hand that were unnecessary and he basically turns them into spot removal, and he just says, I'm going to torch my opponent's entire field. Obviously, Sky Striker can't do anything about that. He's also going to put the Gamma Seal on board, that's a negation, and he does end on the A to Z Dragon Buster Cannon. This guy is a walking Infernity Barrier, but not just that, it actually gets to tag out. It tags out into these two guys, so and it can do it during like either player's turn. It's actually ridiculous. So if this guy ever attacks your opponent directly, you just tag out, and then you can just like, you know, basically you just win because you tag out until like Buster Dragon and Dragon Cannon hit. So whatever cards are in his opponent's hand doesn't matter. He's just going to negate them with Gamma Seal, or he'll just obviously negate them with the XYZ or the A to Z Dragon Buster Cannon. So his opponent just activates the Widow Anchor. He knows that it's not going to resolve. As long as you have cards in hand, it's basically a wrap. But yeah, it's kind of sick that this deck can not just drop like multiple Saryujas in a turn, but you're talking about being able to drop like Gamma Seal and actually have like negations on that Gamma Seal. Second duel is going to be against Salomon. Great. And this will show you one of the struggles with the Ojama deck. If you do make the Ojama deck go first, hence you will not have a monster on field, Ojama Blue is kind of dead because there's nothing for the Ojama player to run it into. They also can't kaiju. They can't force a monster on your side of the field because, you know, there is no more grinder golem or anything like that. Plus, they wouldn't have a battle phase anyway, so that would be kind of a moot point. So you see that all he's doing is just kind of setting. Now, evenly match can be really good in the deck because really you want to kind of go second. You want something to run your Ojama Blue in, and evenly match is just historically good in these kind of go second decks. So even when his opponent just kind of sets a card on field because he did get Ghost Ogre, he's not really doing much. I mean, he just kind of summons the Armed Dragon and then just kind of passes. His opponent is gonna troll here. I think he's just really bad at Salomon Greats or something. What he's going to do is he's going to eventually go into Sunlight Wolf, and that's fine, but I don't get why he won't Reincarnation Link. He uses Rage giving up his Sunlight Wolf, and it's like, do you not know that Reincarnation Linking is a thing? Because instead of giving up your Sunlight Wolf, you could have Reincarnationed and then basically just used the Roar for free, or excuse me, the Rage for free, and then added back the Rage. So I think he just legit, maybe it's his first time playing the deck. This is really perfect for the Ojama player to capitalize because he can simply run his monsters into the copy of Spinny. And now he's basically off. And again, he's going to probably run all three of his Ojama Blues into those spinnies, and he's just going to constantly get advantage upon advantage upon advantage. You don't really do a lot of battle damage per se doing this. Like, you're never going to really amount any damage to your opponent. But, well, in that case, he was able to use evenly match, which was kind of slick. But basically, you're making your win condition in main phase 2. Main phase 2 is where you'll start getting the, Saryuja Skull Dress. This is when you'll start dropping ABC Buster Dragon. Even if Saryuja did go to 1, this would be one of the Yu-Gi-Oh decks that would definitely like survive because, you know, it only kind of wants to go into Saryuja, not just to potentially fix your hand, but also to just open up the extra monster zone so that you'd be able to drop ABC Buster Dragon plus XYZ Dragon Cannon Head and all this good stuff, plus like a Kaiju. And, you know, you just want monster zones to help you go into the extra deck. It would have been better if he had a Gamma Seal, but, you know, can't have everything. Anyways, his opponent goes for the Banelinks, and he's actually going to use Kamungus here. Kamungus is going to attempt to negate the Banelinks, and this is where this card, the A to Z Dragon, just comes in handy. Anytime your opponent's trying to activate hand traps, whether it be Ghost Ogre, Effect Fail, or whatever, you just negate those cards and you just use the cards in your hand. They essentially just become negations, and it's cool because even if you do have dead cards, like Ojama monsters, oh, this was just disgusting, by the way, like Ojamas or Evenlies or Kaijus, they essentially just become negations. So what he actually did was he went for Rescue Cat, summoned a couple of his Ojamas, and since he has this huge A to Z Dragon Buster Cannon, he says, why don't we go into this Ronin Raccoon and get a 4,300 attack token? Like, oh my god, that is the flexiest token I have ever seen. I've never seen a token quite that big, so that thing is obviously pretty strong, and Salomon Greats are out of here. I believe that our third duel is going to be against Thunder Dragons. Yeah, it should be Thunder Dragon or Danger Thunder Dragon. Another amazing meta deck, and I don't think he's going to quite make the best of maybe his opening. I mean, I guess you could have, maybe you could have went for like Defrag Dragon or something like that. Now, you're not playing any hand traps in this deck, so basically whatever your opponent puts on the field, you just got to figure out a way to play through it with Ojamas. So that is one thing to just keep in mind. That's also the point of the Kaijus. You know, you're not running hand traps because ideally you just want to be able to Kaiju your opponent, and it does mean that you get the run Kaiju Interrupted Slumber. Now, he does have the copy of Hot Red Dragon Archer and Abyss, so he's off to a pretty decent start. He's going to get the copy of Levineer. That actually takes out the Slumber. All right, no big deal. But then he just doesn't do anything else. And, I mean, maybe you wonder if he should have dropped one of these danger, or should have dropped, you know, one of these danger monsters to see if he could have dug for like an extender or something like that. But he gets his negation Kaiju. He does get Darkest Diablos, which at least that was something. And his opponent is going to go back to the Ojama Blue. Now, this is where you'd want a smaller Kaiju, because you don't want to run into something like Saryuja where you're taking 2,800. If you can take like 22 or a little less, like that's much better. But again, he is able to get those monsters on board, and he's able to do all of his plays in main phase 2. This this means he will almost certainly be going for his copy of Saryuja Skull Dread, and then, you know, working into like ABC Buster Dragon, etc., etc. This deck has tons of bricks, but that's why you run 60 cards. Basically, get to Ojama Blue as quickly as possible. He did go ahead and he dropped this Gamecill. He's going to get rid of Levenir with the copy of ABC Buster Dragon. Again, I question him constantly summoning the Gamecill in attack mode. Why is he doing that? That's the one thing that I do wonder about. Why not summon the Gamecill in defense mode and have it sit on that 3,300 booty that your opponent is just going to struggle to actually get over? Even the Darkest Diablos would only be able to tie with it. But anyways, he did get the Dogoran on board or off board. Maybe he will just run into the game. And so that's what I would probably do. Anything that you activate is just going to be negated. His opponent is going to try to activate these danger monsters now, but if you're the Ojama player, why would you let them? There's no reason to do that. So he is going to attack into Saryuja, but it honestly doesn't matter. This is a little bit of just flexing on your opponent. So he's going to go ahead and get a Kaiju. He's going to Kaiju his opponent, making sure that he's able to do some battle damage. We don't want to attack in the face or monsters in defense position. And he's going to summon the Ojama Blue. Oh, no, wait, I'm sorry. Maybe that was in another duel. Okay, I think maybe I'm trolling here. I thought that he was going to summon Ojama Blue, but I believe that might actually be in the next turn. I think that Solar Battery Man is just going to be negated. Yeah, it actually is going to be in the next turn. No point of even activating the effect. Maybe he should have just tried to set it. He has 2 negations. He summons the Ojama Blue, which has 0 attack. This is just flexing on your opponent, kind of telling them, I'm better than you and you got wrecked, scrub. He is going to attack for almost game, then attacks for 0 damage. That's what I'm talking about. And then during the battle phase, this is what I talked about earlier, you can tag your dragon out for the ABC Buster Dragon and your Dragon Cannon, and it's basically, it's almost game from a single attack. Like, it's just a ton of damage. Actually, no, it is actually game from, essentially this card attacking directly is game, because you just tag it out and you get these 2 guys, and it's basically a wrap. Alright, this is what that monstrosity looks like on paper, and I stand corrected. Looks like there actually are some hand traps in here, not named Infinite Permanence. I kind of wonder if maybe Phantasme might be decent in this build as well, because Phantasme, much like Saryuja Skull Dread, is kind of a card that allows you to put these 1-ofs back in your deck. You want to summon these cards from the Ojama spells. You don't want to actually like draw these cards and normal summon them or anything like that. That's why Saryuja is so important. Not just opening up the extra monster zones, but putting these guys back into your deck. If Saryuja ever got banned, I would probably say that this deck would be 100% dead, because you need the ability to shuffle those cards back in, and ain't nobody trying to run something like, what's that card? Reload. Nobody's trying to run that. Other going second cards that are strong or evenly matched, and since you're running all of these Kaijus and you're making Saryuja Skull Dread, I think it just makes sense to run Kaijuto Waterfront. The card, obviously, you're sending tons of cards to the graveyard just with your basic plays, so you are going to be able to get to like a Gamecill pretty much at will. And then Gamecill just kind of makes like this card even better, because your A to Z turns any of your cards in hand into negations, but if you have Gamecill, that's just another kind of like walking negation. So it's an interesting deck, and yeah, I would I think it'd be cool to see more people play decks like this competitively, decks that no one really gives a chance. But 5-2-2 is actually a pretty respectable record if you're just playing against meta. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give the video a thumbs up. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe if you have not already, and turn on that notification bell for daily videos.